Well, good afternoon, everyone. Meteorologist Michael Wilhite here with your SouthernIndianaWeather.com long-range forecast update. It is about noon here on October the 11th, 2014. It is a Saturday, and we've got some major things to talk about in the works today. Today's video update is sponsored by Metal Magic in Washington. Give Chad a call at 698-8555 for all of your paintless dent repair needs. Folks, they do a fantastic job, and they are PDR Nation certified. So be sure you give them a call and tell them Southern Indiana Weather sent you when you do. They specialize in paintless dent repair for hail damage, shopping cart dings, things like that. Folks, we have severe weather in the forecast potentially on Monday, so write that number down. You may end up needing them. Satellite and radar into motion here. It is just a gray, gloomy, cloudy day across the area. We started off sort of earlier this morning. It was a little bit thinner here, but some clouds are starting to move back in. It's going to be one of these days where we go cloudy and then thin out a little bit, cloudy, thin out a little bit. It's just sort of a gray, gloomy day across the area. Not a whole lot of rain going on, really no rain going on here unless there are sprinkles that radar can't detect across the area. It's all pretty much down to our south as we take a live look at our southwest Skycam here looking outside of the Southern Indiana Weather Office in Huntingburg. You can see that thick cloud deck, and it's going to just stick around, and we're not going to see the sun in any significant form for quite a little while from the way things look. Storm Prediction Center has placed us in a slight risk for severe weather on Monday. Now, rain chances today, Saturday, and tomorrow are going to be pretty low. In fact, I've only went with a 20 to 30% chance of rain over the next couple of days here. So it's nothing really significantly to worry about. You have outdoor plans today. Temperatures are going to get into the low 60s or so across the area, and maybe upper 50s more towards the north. It's going to be just a cloudy day with an isolated shower, and that's about what you can expect. If you have outdoor plans, it's just going to be a cold, gloomy day more than anything. Not much in the rain department to really worry about. That'll all change on Monday when we have our next big storm system moving our way. Storm Prediction Center has placed a slight risk for almost the entire state here. As we cover over the probabilistic, you can see that actually it is a upper end slight risk just to our south. I've got a graphic here that illustrates this for you just a little bit better. Again, slight risk encompasses all of our area. Upper end slight risk at 30% hatch mark down just to our southwest. It looks like it could be a pretty significant event for folks just to our south, but I would not rule out being a decent sized wind event for us either. Primary threats to me at this point looks like a squall line pushing through on Monday afternoon into the Monday early overnight hour time frame. Damaging straight line winds and some hail would be the primary threats. Of course, we can never rule out tornadoes once we get severe weather threat into the area, but a tornado threat, honestly, to me looks very low. That the increased risk for tornado threat looks to stay more toward our south at this point. Let's dive right into the details, tell you what you can expect. Here's what we can look at the GFS in motion here. And as we put this into motion, here we are by Sunday afternoon. You notice maybe just some slight sprinkles over here in the area. Again, nothing huge to worry about as far as everything goes for us. Then as you continue on, though, watch this big storm system out to our west just sort of blow up. And here we are by 8 p.m. on on Monday evening. And what you've got essentially here is a pretty impressive low pressure cell right here, and you've got a trailing cold front that's going down sort of just like this, and you've got a squall line that's sort of racing ahead of that. That's the setup that we're going to be expecting. And of course, before that, a warm front is going to lift through our area on Monday morning as well, and so that will soar temperatures up. As far as temperatures go, let me pull that up here for you. Temperatures across the area on Sunday get into the low to mid 70s area wide, so it'll certainly be warm enough for this time of the year to provide the instability that we need for severe weather. The only question may be cloud cover may be a little bit hard to find again on the system. That's very much in question at this point. However, we are going to have some decent wind energy with this system that can overcome that. Here's what the CAPE looks like, CAPE convective available potential energy, and you can see maybe 750 to 1,000 units of CAPE around the area. That's not outlandishly impressive by any means, but that's enough to get severe weather this time of the year. So even some breaks in the clouds would increase that a little bit more. But what I really want to show you is sort of the wind energy that we can expect. Here is what the GFS says for the low-level jet. We're looking at wind speeds here at the time the squall line would potentially arrive. Wind speeds about 4,000 to 5,000 feet, 4 or 5,000 I should say, instead of 45,000. Sometimes when I say 425,000, it kind of have been pointed out that that sounds like 45,000. That's not what I'm saying here. This is the 850 millibar level winds if you want the scientific name for it, but it's about 4,000 or 5,000 feet up in the atmosphere. And what you can see is we've got 50 to 60 knot wind over. That winds are going to be cranking. That'll translate probably to a even 15, maybe even up to 30 mile per hour sustained wind on the surface. So really, with a 60 knot wind up just 4,000 or so feet above us, folks, it doesn't take much for a storm to go severe. All the storm's got to grow is to 4,000 or 5,000 feet to be able to tap into those winds, and it's got plenty of wind energy to work with, and that can overcome a low amount of instability as well. So this setup is definitely one that we will want to pay attention to. This is probably the best setup for some widespread severe weather that we've seen around here in a fairly good little while. All right, NAM. The high resolution NAM, actually this is the regular NAM, I should say. I don't have the high resolution one pulled up, but the regular NAM here, not quite as impressive. You see it's maybe 40 to 50 knots around the area, whereas the GFS has it more of a 50 to 60 knot. Even 40 to 50 knot in the low levels is absolutely plenty enough. That's some pretty impressive wind energy, and that's something that we will most certainly keep an eye on. The NAM has it set up looking like this. You can see it's a little bit more of a closed low, but again, it's a very similar setup to what we saw in the GFS for this. So bottom line, we are going to expect what could be a very impressive setup. Notice the dip in the mid-level jet stream. What we've got here overlaid in the black lines is the surface, and in the colored shading is the mid-level jet stream. And so what you've got here is a very impressive low pressure setup right here. But then notice the dips in the jet stream. If I just turn maybe the yellow on here, and notice how far down the dips in this jet stream go before it cranks its way forward like this. Folks, this should be of absolutely no surprise to us, by the way. We know the typhoon rule that I've talked about many times, say that 6 to 10 days after you get a typhoon start to recurve from Japan, you end up with a very impressive trough over us. Sometimes these troughs can be preceded by a decent sized warm up, which is exactly what we're going to see Monday. Severe weather and a little bit of a cool down after that, and that is exactly what we're seeing. You may remember this particular graphic here that I showed several days ago. This was Typhoon Fanphone, and you remember it struck Japan and then recurved out, and I said at that time that we could expect a pretty decent sized system, and now folks, that's exactly what we're going to see. This is the remnants, if you will, of Typhoon Fanphone moving down into us. It's not the actual typhoon. What it is, the typhoon interacts with the jet stream, and it sort of jacks the jet stream up pretty big, puts a little kink in the jet stream, and that kink eventually comes down over us about 6 to 10 days later after these typhoons recurve. And so if you count it from either the 5th or the 6th here, and you count 6 to 10 days later, what exactly do you get? Well, 7 days is the 12th here, so 8, 9, 10. The 15th, we would say maybe the 11th or 12th through the 15th or 16th in that time frame would be the range that we would shoot for to have a big system, a little bit of a warm-up, big trough, and a cool-down over us. And, well, folks, we're looking at the 13th and 14th right now. So you can see that falls right within the typhoon rule. So, again, if you watch our videos on a regular basis, you know about these because I look out into these long-range discussions, point for you exactly what's coming down. So just to show you that this is all science that we use. This is not just a fantasy and wishful thinking. There is some actual reasoning behind this, and it's pretty cool like this when these things do end up verifying. All right, now let's move on. We've talked a little bit about this, but let's talk about what we can expect from this system just a little bit. Let's pull up future radar here, and let me just show you that the big thing that I want to point out here is that the timing of this is going to vary. This is the high resolution NAM and what it thought earlier. This was the overnight run that was initialized at 2 a.m. last night. What you can see is a very impressive looking squall line developing, and again, I do think the strongest severe potential will stay here to our south where the upper end slight risk goes, but I do think that we're going to be on the tail end of some fairly impressive winds too. But notice that this was 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and I posted this graphic this morning on Facebook to just sort of alert everybody out there. Now, the latest high-resolution NAM is a little bit slower. Here's 8 p.m. at night, and you see it even has a bit of a different shape to it as well. I think this is more reasonable as well, because I think one of the bigger risks down here will be these breakaway supercells ahead of the squall line. And we'll have to see what ends up happening down here in the south. Sometimes when you've got a major severe weather outbreak in the south, that can actually rob the upper portion of the line in our area of the energy and oomph, so to speak, that it needs to really sustain severe weather for us. So we will watch that and see whether that happens or not. That's not a guarantee, but that is something I'll point out is a possibility. So severe weather certainly not a guarantee at this point, but something we are going to watch. Updated timing on this here is about 8 p.m. on Monday evening, and you see it's starting to move into the area. So really from, say the dark hours before 1 or 2 in the morning is probably whenever this is mostly going to roll through the state at this point. And isn't that typically when we see a severe squall line in our area move through anyway, as you can see. Plenty of fuel to work with this as far as wind energy goes, and we'll keep you posted on the severe weather threat. Again, we don't want to overhype this and to say that's going to be the end of the world type of setup or that we're going to have a massive tornado outbreak. Again, I think damaging straight line winds 60 to 70 miles per hour or so all up and down this line as it moves through would be the threat that we would see with this. Secondary threat being some larger hail and some of the more strong cells that would move through on this. But and again, tornado risk looks fairly low to me at this point. That's sort of the way things stand. Now let's go even beyond this, because that's really through Monday. But beyond this, we've got some mild weather coming. No 80s still in sight. I think we're going to see about mid 70s or so on Monday. Here's what the 16-day temperature spread looks like from the GFS ensembles, and you can see we've got another cool period coming right after this goes, and that's exactly what we see. We get one of these typhoons sort of recurve, and boom, it drops our temperatures down for a couple of days before things start to equalize out a little bit more. Behind this system, we're going to go down into the low to mid 60s for a couple of days before we rebound again. We'll notice this out here. We've got yet another typhoon brewing out in the tropics. I've mentioned this in the past. Typhoon Vongfong, here it is. It's bearing down on Okinawa right now. It will affect Japan. The last thing they need is another typhoon moving over them, and they're getting yet another one. The poor Japanese just cannot get a break from typhoons this year. A very active Pacific basin this particular typhoon season for them. Again, here you go, though, 13th, 14th, right around that time frame. Count 6 to 10 days out from the 13th and 14th, and what do you end up with? Well, let's say from starting about the 19th or 20th and lasting the 24th or 25th. Again, we got a recurving typhoon. You know what that means. Could there be a severe weather threat with this? Possibly. We're going to expect a warm-up in the days right prior to that, followed by a pretty sharp cool-down. All right? The question is whether the sharp cool-down can be sustained. Also, the thing to keep in mind to these is the strength of the typhoon once it recurves will impact how big it is a threat it is to the jet stream. This was a super typhoon at one time, but by the time it's leaving up here, it's just pretty much a minimal tropical storm at that point. So that will certainly affect this and may not affect it quite as much as what it could have as if it had been a sustainer. But nonetheless, the GFS ensembles are picking up this. Again, we said from about the 19th or the 20th all the way through the 25th, 26th, right around in there. And that's the cooler time frame. We warm up to near 70 degrees during those initial couple of days, and then you notice we start to go back down. It's looking like it puts the big heart of the remnants here, maybe the 25th, 26th, for the deeper part of the trough for us. Now, I do think this may be even a bit warm with this as we're getting later into October. It's a good chance that we could end up seeing 50s for highs out of this. Still would not rule that out yet, but the GFS ensembles are starting to pick up on this. Give them a few more days. Because a few days ago when I showed you this, it was staying low 70s, and it only went out to this particular time frame right here. It's cooler now. Give it a few more days, I think the pattern will get on board here. But that's sort of what we can expect. Mild temperatures with a fair amount of rain chances as well. Let's take a look at your 10-day forecast. 61, your high temperature around the area today, just sort of a gloomy day, an isolated shower chance, but not much more than that. Again, 48, your low tonight. 67 tomorrow, a chance of scattered showers and thunderstorms. A little bit warmer than it is today. Very much warmer on Tuesday. Again, I went with a 40% chance on Sunday. I might even downgrade that to a 30% chance. It's just not that impressive. By the time you get on Monday, though, we've got a pretty impressive shot on Monday evening. A line of severe storms possible during the afternoon, and I would add evening hours with that with the latest run. I'll update that to say that. Behind that, temperatures in the low 60s, more rain on Tuesday. But beyond that, pretty nice weather, at least for a few days as far as things goes, until we get the next system moving in potentially by that following Monday, and we will go down from there. All right, folks, that's it for this long-range update. I'm meteorologist Michael Wilhite with your SouthernIndianaWeather.com forecast. Stay safe, and we'll keep you updated this weekend on the threat for Monday. Take care.